Hi, my name's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today it is Saturday the 6th of September and I'm kicking off my September reading wrap up. So it is evening time. I've been out visiting family all day, which has been lovely. So I want to talk about the books I've read so far this month, which I've kind of read 3 books so far this month. The first book I actually read right at the end of August. I think I called time on my August wrap up couple of days too early. So the first book I read entirely in August. The second book I read mostly in August and finished at the start of September. The third book is super short, but I'm not actually going to talk about it in this reading vlog because I'm reading it for a separate sort of background vlog that I have going on at the moment. So just 2 books to talk about so far, but both very good. Both very weird in sort of quite different ways. So the first book is Slade House by David Mitchell. Now, I was at a family gathering a few weeks ago and my uncle really likes David Mitchell. My experience with David Mitchell is that I DNF'd Cloud Atlas when I was reading it for a book club, for my book club, several years ago. No one in the book club finished that book. And I've just it's never occurred to me to try another David Mitchell because Cloud Atlas was just very confusing for me. So anyway, so talking to my uncle and he was talking about how much he liked David Mitchell and I was like, okay, I've DNF Cloud Atlas, where's a good place for me to start? We decided Slade House was the place because 1, it is short, 2, it is weird. This is a really great sort of horror, weird speculative horror novel. I really enjoyed this, like so much so that I want to read more David Mitchell now. So the book centres around Slade House, which is a very strange place where very strange things happen. It's accessible via Slade Alley, where there is a little grey like metal door, which sometimes is there, sometimes it seems not to be there, but if you go through there you come out into this glorious sort of garden, and this big sort of like mansion type house, this grand house. And it sort of seems impossible spatially that this massive house and gardens could be located where it is behind Slade Alley. Like it seems like that couldn't possibly like fit in that space. And so the book, I think the book first opens up in, I think, 1979, and we're following a young boy called, I want to say Nathan. Is his name Nathan? A young boy and his mother who have been called to, Nathan, for an appointment with this like well-off lady who lives at Slade House. So Nathan and his mother end up eventually finding Slade House, this really grand house. Nathan is playing in the garden with a young boy who lives there, and he starts like hallucinating, seeing really weird things. The book is told across a number of years and it jumps forward like a few years at each chapter, and we follow different characters at each sort of point in time and their encounters with Slade House and its inhabitants, the different sort of ways they stumble across Slade House and the weird stuff that happens when they are there. I thought it was creepy. I thought it was like creative in what it's doing. There are, as we read, we see the sort of the threads that run through the different narratives, the different points in time, what links them together, what might be going on. I thought it was really great. I like weird stuff. It's not like super weird, to be honest. And as a reader, you're not sort of left totally hanging. We get some explanations and things. But I thought it was great, like really great. Little spooky, weird book, atmospheric. A little bit, I think it was a little bit gruesome in parts, but not overly so. But yeah, I just thought it was really excellent. If you like weird horror, I would definitely recommend Slade House. And then the next book I read, another weird one. This is The Glamour by Christopher Priest. This was first published, I think, around 1984. And I heard Criminoli talk about this on his channel. You probably know Criminoli. I'll link his channel below if you don't. I think our tastes overlap where he reads quite a lot of like older mystery and psychological thrillers. So yeah, I realised after I was looking up this book at the library that I actually have another Christopher Priest on my physical TBR. It's one of the few books that survived what I'm calling the Great Unhaul of 2025. I'll link below to that video. It's one of the few books that survived. I think it's called Inverted World. I've not got to that one yet. But anyway, the Glamour. So after hearing Ollie talk about this, I really, really wanted to read it. So we're following this man who at the start of the book wakes up in hospital. He's been in a terrible accident and he wakes up and he has amnesia. He doesn't remember what happened to him. He's forgotten huge swathes of his life. And one day someone called Sue comes to visit him in hospital and she's like, what, you don't remember me? You know, we used to date. And then the book is told across several different parts and it jumps around sort of chronologically. So we hear some of, is his name Richard? Yeah, Richard's backstory. He works as a cameraman, sort of following news, different news items across the world. So we see his backstory, we see how he knew Sue, we get some parts from Sue's perspective as well. And we learn, I think about halfway through, there's a reveal. We find out more about what the Glamour is. I'd say this book on one level is kind of a bit silly and ridiculous, but I think it knows it is, and that's just quite entertaining in terms of like what's really going on here. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. There are some difficult scenes within here. So in particular, there's one scene which Ollie like gave a content warning for, which I was grateful for, so I knew sort of to expect it. There is a particularly horrible scene of sexual assault within the book, so just like be aware of that going into it. But this is a book as well that when I got to the end I was like, hang on a minute, what? And I had to have a think and I had to look up some reviews, and I really like, I think what overall what the book is doing. Yeah, it is a little bit daft, but I thought it was quite a page turner, very enjoyable. This copy of the book is it's got one of those terrible like author pictures on the back, and this is a terrible cover, isn't it? It's quite an old copy, and it was actually in the reserve section of the library, so they have another room where they have like the reserve fiction collection, so the stuff that people are probably not likely to borrow that often, but they still keep it in the library. And it actually has one of these like a really old little library ticket in here, which I haven't seen for years. So like, you have a little ticket. So do you remember you used to have your own little, like the library would have the little like cardboard pouch with your name on it, and they'd have them all stacked in a box, and then when you borrowed a book they'd take this out and put it in your little cardboard things. They knew what books you had out. Anyway, that was very nostalgic for me. But yeah, I really liked that. If you like sort of like psychological thrillers and you don't mind something that's like not the best written thing, but you know, very enjoyable, I would recommend. So those are what I've read so far. I've only just started. I'm only on page 32. Model Home by Rivers Solomon, which I have been wanting to read for a while. I really like this cover, and I am very much enjoying what I've read so far. I'm excited for autumn and for autumn reading. The weather's still a bit too hot for me. It was like 20 degrees today and I was out in just like a t-shirt. I really am looking forward to jumper weather because I like a jumper, and just, yeah, coziness. So I need autumn to like fight its way through a little bit more, please, and then I'll be happy. I haven't done an autumnal TBR, and I do often do one. I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to do a TBR video for autumn or not. I really like autumn reading. I like horror. I've read a lot of horror this year. and I want to lean into that really in the next couple of months. But also I think I'm going to read some longer books, maybe 1 or 2 classics. So I'll think about doing a TBR video. I might do. Anyway, that's everything for now. I need to film a clip for that other vlog. As always, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for watching my videos. Do let me know what you've been reading, and I will be back in a couple of seconds, hopefully, to tell you that I have read a couple more books. Hi. It is Saturday. It's the 13th, I think, of September. And I've read some more stuff. So let me tell you about 2 DNFs first. Both of these went back to the library this morning, so we'll put the pictures up here. The first is Universality by Natasha Brown, and I only read, I don't know, maybe 30 pages before DNF in this one. I really like Natasha Brown's previous novel, Assembly. Universality is about... It's set like in the countryside, and there's like a commune living in this house, and someone is bludgeoned to death. I think they're bludgeoned to death with a gold bar. It's told in sort of a journalistic style, so like you're reading a newspaper article or something. And there was nothing wrong with it, but there was just nothing about it that was enticing me to read on. So I DNF'd it. And then I don't even know whether to mention this. I'll mention it very briefly. I've DNF'd Demon Copperhead for the 2nd time now, by Barbara Kingsolver. I read it. I attempted to read it when it first came out a few years ago. I made it to page 9. And this time around I was reading it for my book club. I tried the audio book this time, which was alright, but I only listened to about half an hour of it before deciding to DNF it. And really it's just because there's just nothing about the story of Demon Copperhead that makes me want to read it. Like, I'm sure it's a really good book, but it just doesn't interest me, and it's really long, so I just have other things I'd rather read. Anyway, I have read 1 book this week that I have really, really enjoyed, and that is Model Home by Rivers Solomon. I've only read 1 book by this author before, which was Sorrowland, which I really enjoyed. But Model Home, for me, was absolutely outstanding. Like, I really, really loved this book. So this is, I guess, kind of a literary horror haunted house story following these 3 siblings, so adult siblings, who go back to their family home. They've sort of not been there for a very long time, and they grew up in this gated community, like really fancy gated community, and their family was the only black family there, and they sort of had quite a sort of troubled time growing up there, hence them leaving and not going back until now. And they go back to visit their parents, and they find, this happens right at the start of the book, their parents are both dead at the house. So we follow these characters as they sort of try to understand what's happened to their parents, but also deal with sort of the trauma of going back to the place where they grew up. And there's a mix of sort of realist, I guess, horror in, you know, like how they're treated. It looks at class and like race, but also there's aspects of potential like supernatural horror around the house that they grew up in, weird things happening. So we find out what it was like for them growing up. The book is told mainly from the perspective of Esri, one of the 3 siblings, who is, I don't think it's sort of explicitly defined in the book, but they're certainly genderqueer to some extent. And I thought that was done really, really well. There is some like really good creepy imagery throughout the book as well, from like a horror perspective, and there is that sort of unsettling feeling as well as you're going through, and that sort of like feeling of dread. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really well plotted. There was a certain point where I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. And I thought it was really well written. You know, sometimes you read a book and the writing is not like sort of flowery or anything like that, but I really felt like River Solomon was just so in control of their writing. It just felt very sort of masterfully done. And every word, every sentence was very intentional. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a great mix of horror and sort of like social commentary and different things. I will say you might want to check out content warnings on this, because there is some really like dark stuff within the book. But I thought it was incredible. Like, I thought it was really, really good. I've settled on a 4.5 stars, not quite a 5, only because there's no like tangible difference for me between a 4.5 and a 5. It's just like a feeling, and the fact that I was sort of agonising over between a 4.5 and a 5, I guess is kind of an indication it's a 4.5. But I thought it was really, really, really excellent. Highly recommend. If you like sort of weird horror, looking at social commentary and sort of, yeah, just there's a lot going on in this book, but I thought it was really, really excellent. Hello again, it's Saturday the 20th of October. It's a rainy, rainy day outside. But I've had a lovely morning. I met with my dad and we went to the library, then a second-hand bookshop, and then a second-hand book fair. So it's been a lovely bookish day. And I have read 2 more books, both of which I really enjoyed. Both of them horror, because that is definitely what I am in the mood for at the moment. So first up is A Guest in the House by Emily Carroll. This is a graphic novel, which is not something I've read many of, apart from like Heartstopper. I've maybe read 1 or 2 more, but this was really, really excellent. So I'm just going to let the cat out the room. There you go. Yeah, I really, really liked this. I thought the artwork was absolutely stunning. In parts it was quite grotesque, but in other parts, like, really quite beautiful. So this is about a woman called, what is her name? Abby, who is married to David. So she lives with David and his daughter Crystal. And David's first wife has died, and Abby sort of feels the spectre of David's previous wife, whose name I can't remember, sort of like looming over her life. A little bit sort of Rebecca-esque vibes. They live in this house next door to a lake, and it's sort of very sort of mysterious. Abby has a little bit of a mundane existence, I guess, in some ways. She goes to work in a supermarket. She sort of has quite a lonely life, quite an isolated life. And her relationship with David is, doesn't come across as a terribly nice person, but I think makes Abby sort of feel safe in a way, in the fact that she has, and it feels somewhat sort of protected by him. So the book is very much about, I guess, the mystery of David's first wife, about Abby and David's relationship. I thought it was really, really excellent. Like, really excellent. The artwork was so, so good. I would highly, highly recommend it. I really would like to read some more by this author, because like some of the artwork is honestly so beautiful. I would literally put it on my wall happily. so good. I mean, the stuff obviously I can't show you because it's like towards the end, but just absolutely, I can show you this one because this doesn't really give anything away, but it's absolutely stunning. And I found it quite quite emotional and impactful in the best way. I thought it was really, really excellent. Highly recommend. And then I read The Hotel by Daisy Johnson. So this I think was published last year. It's a collection of short stories, interconnected short stories, all surrounding this sort of mysterious hotel, in particular room 63 within the hotel. And so each chapter is, and it's a very short book, but each chapter is told, or each short story is told sort of about a different character and their encounters with the hotel and with room 63. So we have stories from guests who have stayed there, from people who've worked there, from people who've been there for conferences, for a wedding, sort of different events. It is creepy, it's unsettling, and sort of different things happen to different characters, and there's some stuff in there around sort of from different generations, and the origins of these sort of spooky things going on in the hotel. I really, really enjoyed it. It was gothic, it was unsettling, and yeah, a really entertaining read. So I have so many library books out at the moment. I know I did an autumnal TBR, which I'll link below if you haven't seen it, and that contained a lot of horror, which I've already made a start on reading, as you can tell, but I still keep picking up extra horror books from the library as well, and I'm just so excited for all of them. So will I fit them in? I don't know. I'm also doing some pre-recording of videos, which I have never done before in 4 years of this channel, because the next couple of months are going to be quite busy, although conversely I will probably have quite a lot of reading time. I probably won't have much filming time, so I'm trying to get ahead of the game. So I've got some what I think are quite exciting videos coming up that I'm in the process of filming, so I will have some content to go out over the next couple of months. So yeah, we've still got, how long have we got left in the month? About a week and a half. So I'll probably catch up with you again at the end of the month. Hello again. It is Sunday. It is, what date is it? The 28th of September. I've read 5 more books. What I might do, there's probably not going to be an October wrap up. So I might extend September's wrap up to include the first couple of weeks of October, and then have November's wrap up include the final couple of weeks of October. Maybe. So this might not be the final clip, because I'm probably going to extend it into October, I think, but I haven't quite decided. So I have been getting ahead of the game with my pre-filming. I think I mentioned in the last clip that the next couple of months are going to be quite busy, so I'm not really going to have much opportunity for filming. I filmed 3 videos today. 3 videos, not including this one. I've never done that before. Right, I've read some good stuff this week. So first up is The Mysterious Case of the Missing Crime Writer by Ragnar Jonasson. This is translated from Icelandic by Victoria Cribb. I enjoyed this. I really enjoy Ragnar Jonasson's writing. He's just like a solid crime writer for me. In this one, as you might suspect, we are following the mysterious disappearance of a crime writer called Ellen, and we have a detective who's looking into this and sort of uncovering like the secrets of her life. This follows on in a series. So this is interesting. So this author wrote what was a trilogy of books. That was The Darkness, The Island and The Mist, and that was a great trilogy, so good. I need to reread that actually. But then in his last couple of books he has included some characters from that trilogy, so I'm not sure if we're saying this is now like a whole series or whatever, but this definitely does have some characters from previous books, and I think I would suggest it makes sense to read them in order because there is quite a bit of the other characters and like the detective's backstory and stuff like that. So I think probably you should read them in order. But yeah, I enjoyed this. It has like transcripts at certain points throughout, where you're not too sure who the people are in the transcript. It's someone being interviewed, you don't know when it took place or whatever, and as you go through you sort of delve into some of the mysteries. I enjoyed it. What I do think is quite interesting is this one and his previous book, Death at the Sanatorium. The marketing team has clearly decided to take a different direction with them in terms of the title of the novels and the cover art, because I think it comes off the whole back of the Thursday Murder Club thing, doesn't it? And those sort of crime novels are very popular. Not that I have a problem with them. I have a problem with the Thursday Murder Club. I DNF'd it. I think it's a terrible book, and Richard Osman does my head in. But apart from that, I think that these publishers are clearly sort of like buying into that trend, and I do suspect people might pick this up thinking it's going to be one kind of thing, but it is very much a police procedural, which I know is not everyone's cup of tea. But Ragnar Jonasson is just a very solid crime writer for me. And then we have Cabaret Macabre by Tom Mead. This is a third book in the Joseph Spector series. So Joseph Spector is a illusionist who has worked on like magical tricks for the stage, and he's also like an amateur sleuth. And this is the third in the series. This is probably my least favourite of the series, but I still enjoyed it. I think the reason it was probably my least favourite is because you are thrown in right at the start to like a lot is already happening. So we have it set in 1938. So we have someone called Victor who is imprisoned in a private sanatorium after attacking this judge, Sir Giles. Sir Giles is receiving threatening letters. Then Victor's sister is convinced her brother's about to be murdered by Sir Giles. And then at the same time, we have the judge and his wife are trying to get help from Scotland Yard. So there's sort of like, there's just like a lot, there's like a lot of stuff happening right at the start. And it was a little like overwhelming for me, really. And then we do get a locked room mystery, which I really enjoyed, where a body is found in like a sealed room, and somehow like the bullet, there's no like sign on the window that the bullet came through it, but there's no one in the room either. So how was he murdered? I always love a locked room mystery, and what I like about Tom Mead is he obviously really likes Golden Age mysteries. I know he's a big fan of John Dixon Carr, as I am, and he has like a section towards the end of the book which is called like a challenge to the reader, and it's like, right, by this point you've had all the clues, you should be able to have worked out the solution. Can you work out the solution? And then when we do get the solution, it'll give you like little page numbers if you want to look back and see where the clues were dropped. So that's all quite fun, and I really like that. And the fourth book in the series has recently been published, and I am looking forward to getting to that one. Next is Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. This is my first time reading this author. I do really want to read Bloom, which is their previous novel. So this is about our main character called Des, and she really wants to break into the world of like fashion magazines. So she ends up meeting this guy whose mother is like editor-in-chief of a big fashion magazine, kind of like a Vogue type thing. And so she's trying to get in with him just to try and like meet his mother, and try and get like a job from her or something, just try and get a foot in the door. So she goes, so his family is super rich. So Des goes with him to this family island, and before she goes she has to sign this like massive NDA where she just like basically signs away any rights she has. She's not allowed to talk about anything. She's not allowed to call the police, like nothing. And she's so keen to meet his mother that she just signs everything basically. So she ends up on this island and in this family's mansion. And pretty soon stuff gets weird. The family's all a bit strange. The servants they have a lot of servants who all wear these like pink outfits. And it's all a bit strange. Pretty early on it gets gory. It gets gruesome. It's quite like, it's knowingly over the top, I think, in its gruesomeness. But yeah, it's quite a lot. But it was a lot of fun. It was like a fun, sort of daft horror novel that I did enjoy. So I do want to read more by Delilah S. Dawson. It was, yeah, very gruesome. Where should we go next? Let's talk about this one next. This is the Victorian Chaise-Longue by Marghanita Laski. This was first published in 1953. So this is a Persephone edition, and weirdly, the end papers at the front are different to the end papers at the end. Like, why is that? Because that's not normally the case, is it, in Persephone books? But anyway, I read this yesterday. And I really liked it. So our main character, whose name I can't remember, Melanie maybe? She has recently had a baby and she's recently got over tuberculosis. And she's recovering like at home with her husband. Like the doctors are there looking after her, and she has previously bought this Victorian Chaise-Longue from antique dealers, and she like fell in love with it as soon as she saw it, and like brought it home with her. And so when she's like recovering after giving birth and after getting over her illness and everything, and she's like settling down into the Chaise-Longue, and they've put like nice blankets for her, so she settles down for a lovely sleep. And then when she wakes up, everything's different. And I won't say too much else because it's really short, it's only about 100 pages long. But yeah, she wakes up, it's a bit sort of fever dreamy, she's very confused, she doesn't understand what's going on, she can't get anyone to like listen to her or believe her. It was, I wouldn't say it was like scary, but it was unsettling, and you could definitely feel the main character's sort of terror and sense of helplessness, like not being able to understand what's happened to her or get anyone to help her or listen to her. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was very good, very entertaining. I've wanted to read this for a while actually, so I was really pleased when I saw this in the library the other day. It was very good. And the final book for this bit is The Unlit Lamp by Radclyffe. This I did as a buddy read with Jen the librarian. I'll link Jen's channel down below. I really enjoyed this book. This is my second Radclyffe. Previous one I read was The Well of Loneliness, her most famous book. This one I've ended up giving it 4.5 stars. So I liked it slightly less than The Well of Loneliness, but I still loved it, and I expect this is probably going to be on my best books of the year. So we are following, let me tell you when this was first published actually. It was first published in 1924. So our main character is called Joan, and the book opens up when she's like, how old is she? Like a young teenager, I think. She lives with her sister Millie and her mother and father. Her father is very controlling of the family and of her mother. Her mother is very proud woman, very proud of her sort of family heritage, and you know that we do things properly. And Joan's mother has a somewhat unhealthy attachment to Joan, and sort of very much wants to keep Joan with her. She doesn't want Joan to go and have her own life. And yeah, we follow Joan as she sort of grows up. The family what's the word? Wow, why can't I speak? The family employ a governess type person called Elizabeth, who very much takes Joan under her wing and is keen for Joan to get away from her family, and go to university and just live her own life and be independent, that sort of thing. And we see how Joan struggles with both wanting to be independent and escape from the family home, get away from her mother, but she also feels this drawback to her mother in particular, and feels a sense of duty towards her, and so we see that conflict within Joan. It is a queer novel. It's less sort of explicitly queer compared to The Well of Loneliness, but it is a queer novel, and it looks at wanting to sort of live your life, live a fulfilled life outside of the restrictions of heteronormativity. Yeah, I really, really liked it. I thought it was excellent. It makes me want to read all of Radclyffe Hall's novels. I would highly recommend. I think it's really, really good. And something that surprised me actually was how readable this is. I think I often am put off from reading classics because I imagine them to be just difficult to read and dense and difficult to understand. This was so readable. The chapters were really short. It was incredibly readable. And yeah, I thought it was really, really excellent. I think it's interesting reading this, having read The Well of Loneliness, which was published after this. So The Well of Loneliness caused outrage when it was published because it's overtly a lesbian book. But I think it's interesting, and this is why I want to read more Radclyffe Hall actually, to see the similarities and differences between this and The Well of Loneliness in terms of sort of the difficulties that the main characters come up against, and their sort of reactions to that. Absolutely fascinating, really great, really great. Thank you, Jen, for a great buddy read. Hello, it is now the 11th of October, I think, it's a Saturday. I'm going to wrap up the vlog today, so this will be all of September, part of November, part of October, and then yeah, the next wrap up then will be the end of October and all of November. I think that is the plan. So I have 5 more books to talk about, one of which I don't have anymore. We're going to start with a DNF. Now I feel like I haven't had that many DNFs in the last couple of months. And I don't know why that is. I mean, I've been very much reading a lot of genre fiction, particularly a lot of horror. And I wonder if that's maybe why I've not had as many DNFs. I feel like lit fic I tend to DNF more than any other genre. I don't know, I don't have the stats, but that's what I feel like. Anyway, this is a classic that I was reading for my book club. Let me tell you about the book first, then I'll tell you about our book club meeting this morning. So that book is A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. The only E.M. Forster I've read before is Morris, which I really, really loved. And I read, this is only like about 200 pages long. I read physically up to page 68, then I switched to the audiobook, and I made it about halfway through the audiobook before deciding to DNF it because I just wasn't interested in it at all. And even though I had the audiobook on, I wasn't really paying attention to it, and it's like, what is the point of getting to the end of the book but literally not taking anything in at all? There's no point, so I DNF'd it, which is a shame, but I just really wasn't doing anything for me. It's about Lucy Honeychurch, a young woman who's gone on a trip to Italy, and the people that she meets there, and there's a man that she's maybe interested in. I think it's like a class thing, coming of age, whatever. I was just a bit bored, which is a shame, so I'm going to unhaul. This is my own copy I got second hand, so I'm going to unhaul this copy. Book club this morning was interesting because It was a book club of one, just me. So our numbers are dwindling, and there's 5 of us now. And that's just because people have like, really just because people like get old and get ill and stuff and can't come anymore. So there's 5 of us, and yeah, there was only me there. Everyone did explain why they weren't there, but not till this morning. So I didn't know till I got there that I was going to be the only one. Otherwise I would have had a lie-in. So yeah, just me. But I did DNF the book, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I don't know how long our book club's going to survive for, because I thought this for a little while now, because I don't know, our numbers are dwindling. We're kind of struggling to find any books that we want to read, because we're limited to like the sets that the library group has, and we've read like most of them, because we've been going, well, I've been a member of the group for like 10 years, but it's been going for at least 15 years, and all the other members, like I'm the one who's joined the most recent out of the 5 of us. So people have been going for a long time, so I don't know. We'll see. So that was a bit of a shame. Anyway, on to the other books that I have read. Let's just start. These are not in any particular order. Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna van Veen, who is a Dutch author. This was written directly in English. This author's previous book, My Darling Dreadful Thing, was one of my favourite books I read last year. Is that what it's called? So I was really looking forward to reading this one, and I did really like it. I think that's what it's called. Possibly not quite as much as the author's previous novel, but I still really enjoyed it. This is like peak gothicness. If you want something gothic, you need to read this author, because you're not going to get anything more gothic than this. This was a wild ride. So in this book we have twin sisters Lucy and Sarah. It's set in the Netherlands in 1887. And Sarah seems to be very unwell. No one's quite sure what's wrong with her. She's sort of a bit delirious. So her sister Lucy comes to stay with her. Sarah is married. To sort of try and help her work out what's going on. At the same time, on the land where Sarah and her husband live, nearby, they found this body in a bog, which is sort of seemingly sort of pretty well preserved, except all its innards have like disappeared. So we've got these sort of storylines going, and Sarah feels like this bog person is somehow connected to her. So this is a horror novel. It's very dark. It's quite disgusting. This one had a lot of like eyeball grossness, which is a particularly bad grossness for me. I really don't like eyeballs. But yeah, so there was a lot of like really disgusting stuff in this one. It was, yeah, a wild ride. There were a couple of points in the book where I was like, what? It was a lot of fun. It touches on themes of, so I guess like women's like health and how women are treated. So like once a woman is sort of labelled mad, everything she does, everything she says, every way she behaves is attributed to that, oh, she's just mad. Obviously, particularly this is the case for women rather than men, being, hysterical and stuff. So, it touches on all of that sort of stuff as well. And we, of course, have secrets coming out of the woodwork. The characters are all fairly unlikable, I would say, which is a very gothic thing and something I really, really like. So, yeah, this is an author I think I'm going to want to read probably everything they publish, because it is peak gothicness. So good. Another horror novel that I read, this is quite a short one. This is William by Mason Coile. So I heard or saw someone mention this book. Can't remember who it was. And I know I had the thought, oh, I'm going to look and see if my library has that. And then that thought left my head. But then the following day I was in the library and I saw it there and I was like, oh, I heard about this yesterday from someone, don't know who. And I wanted to look it up, but I never did. So I'm going to get it out the library. So this is about a couple called Henry and Lily. And we know from the start that Henry has created something or someone called William. And it's about the relationship between Henry and Lily and how William sort of fits into that. It's horror. It's quite action-packed. There's some really great, like, horror scenes that take place in their home when different things are happening. It was very entertaining, and I liked the sort of the things it was exploring. It's hard to talk about without giving spoilers. There's one aspect of the plot that I kind of saw coming, which is a little bit of a shame, but I still really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for like a short little creepy sort of family home based horror, then it's a good one. Two more to talk about. Yes, Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. This is a reimagining retelling of Carmilla, which is a novella by Sheridan Le Fanu. I read it a couple of years ago and enjoyed it. Carmilla is a sapphic vampire story. So in this book, Kat Dunn is reimagining that story. And we have, what are their names? I don't know how to pronounce this. Lenore and Henry, who are a married couple. And one day they encounter Carmilla, who I think she's been involved in, the coach that she's in has been involved in an accident, so similar to the actual story of Carmilla. And Carmilla then becomes like involved in their lives. So because this is like based on Carmilla, obviously we know we're going to get some sort of, sapphic story here. And we see how Carmilla infiltrates the lives of Henry and Lenore, and how Carmilla sort of awakens something inside Lenore. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read. For me, it was a little bit slow in places. That is just a personal preference thing. But I did enjoy it. I definitely would read from the author again. And then the final book that I read, which I finished this morning at the library when I was left all by myself. Fortunately, I had a book with me. I read Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. It's gone back to the library. We'll put a picture up here. So this is Rachel Harrison's latest release. And this is like a haunted house possession type story. So we've got, the main character is called Cleo, and she has two sisters, all like adults, and their mother has passed away. The mother and father divorced. Mother's passed away, so they end up going back to the old family home, which has been sort of derelict for some time because it was said to be haunted. So Cleo works as a stylist and an influencer. She does a lot of online stuff, and she decides she's going to, like flip the house, do it up, and film the process. And at the same time, it's clear from the beginning that Cleo's childhood was quite unusual and traumatic in many ways. She's clearly got had a very difficult relationship with her mother, who I think they'd all been estranged from for some time. And the mother believed that the house was like possessed by a demon, and the mother wrote a book, like a memoir, about this house being possessed, haunted in some way. but the girls, the daughters, had never read it. I don't know if did it get published? Somehow the daughters had never read it anyway. And when Cleo goes to the house, she finds this, a copy of this book. And in it, her mother has annotated it. So within the book, we get a book in a book, basically, which is something I really enjoy, especially when that book is then annotated. So we get the book in a book. So we hear from Cleo's mother, as she calls on the help of what do they call them? Exorcists? Is that what they're called? Exorcists? To try and get the demons out of the house or whatever. So it's a lot about, I guess, memory, childhood memory, how that's influenced, how memory can be made up of not only what you remember, but also what people tell you happened at the time. There's a lot in there around who can be trusted, whose stories are reliable, who's lying and why, what secrets are going on. I enjoyed it. It's probably my least favourite Rachel Harrison. I still enjoyed it, but the other ones I've read, I enjoyed a little more. My favourite so far is probably Black Sheep. There was just, I don't know what it was, there was a little spark of something that I usually find in Rachel Harrison's books that for me, I didn't find in this. I'm not entirely sure why. I think maybe it was something about I just didn't really feel a connection to the main character in any way. But it was still an interesting story, and there was some good horror pieces within there. So I still want to read all of Rachel Harrison's stuff. So that, I think, is where we're going to end this read and wrap up. Thank you for watching, of course. Please do let me know your thoughts on anything. I can't even remember what I've read at the start of this video. It's always interesting to see people's comments, because I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I read that book. So I have pre-filmed a lot of stuff now. I'm probably not going to do any more filming now till December. Well, I may do little clips for a wrap up. So you should have a video a week until December. You've got a couple of book hauls, you've got a couple of bookish quizzes, there's a couple of reading vlogs. One I think you'll have seen by the time this comes out. Another one's going to come out early November. I'm really looking forward to people seeing that vlog. Neighbours just walked past. So yeah, so even though I'm not going to be filming new videos, I will still be around. If you comment, I'll be there to respond and stuff like that. So anyway, let's wrap this up. Thank you for watching. If you've made it to the end, just leave me any emoji that you want, because I can't think of a relevant one right now. But yes, I do hope you're doing well. I really appreciate everyone who watches my videos. Thank you so much, especially if you make it to the end, because I think my vlogs are a little long sometimes and I do ramble on, so I do appreciate it. But yes, thank you for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll speak to you very soon. Bye.